1 hour after my brother threw red wine in my face at my company's year-end party. He was in handcuffs being escorted out of the building. But between that moment of humiliation and his arrest, I discovered something that made the wine-stained designer dress seem insignificant. The real reason my family had been treating me like their personal ATM for the past 15 years. I'm Sophia. I'm 41 years old, and this is the story of how losing my dignity in front of 50 colleagues became the best thing that ever happened to me. To understand how I ended up standing in the middle of my company's holiday party with Cabernet Sauvignon dripping down my face, while my colleagues stared in horror, you need to know about the family dynamic that had been building to this moment for decades. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. My brother Jason is 3 years younger than me, and my sister Emily is 5 years younger. Growing up in a middle-class family in Ohio, we had everything we needed but nothing extra. My parents, David and Karen, worked hard. Dad was a high school teacher, Mom was a nurse, and they instilled in us the importance of education, hard work, and family loyalty. But somewhere along the way, family loyalty became code for Sophia fixes everything. I was always the responsible one, the straight-A student while Jason barely graduated, the one who got a full scholarship to college while Jason flunked out of community college twice, the one who built a successful career in pharmaceutical sales while Jason bounced from job to job, always with an excuse for why nothing was ever his fault. By the time I was 35, I was a regional sales director making a 6-figure salary. I'd worked my way up through sheer determination, countless 18-hour days, and a willingness to take risks and relocate when opportunities arose. I'd earned every dollar, every promotion, every achievement. And apparently, according to my family, that meant I owed them. It started small, a loan here and there to Jason when he was between jobs, which he was frequently, helping Mom and Dad with their mortgage when Dad's hours got cut, paying for Emily's wedding because she and her fiancé couldn't afford the ceremony she wanted. I told myself I was being generous, that I was helping family, that this was what you did when you had more than others. But the requests kept getting bigger, and they were never framed as requests, they were framed as obligations. You make so much money, Sophia. It's not like you'll miss it, Mom would say when she asked me to cover their property taxes for the 3rd year in a row. Come on, sis, family helps family, or are you too good for us now? Jason would sneer when I hesitated to pay his rent for the 2nd month running. The thing about being the family ATM is that you never realize you've become one until you try to say no. And I didn't try to say no. Not for years. Because somewhere deep down, I believed that my success was partly luck, partly privilege, and that I owed something to the people who'd raised me and the siblings who hadn't been as fortunate. I never stopped to question why Jason's misfortune always seemed to be someone else's fault. Why he'd been fired from 6 jobs in 5 years, always because of a terrible boss, or office politics, or being too honest. Why he lived in a nice apartment he couldn't afford, drove a car that was constantly being repossessed, and had a lifestyle that far exceeded his income, all subsidized by me. I never questioned why my parents never asked Jason to help them, even when he briefly had a decent job. Why the expectation was always that I would step up, that I would sacrifice, that I would put my own financial goals on hold to fund everyone else's needs and wants. I never questioned it because I was too busy being the good daughter, the reliable sister, the one who had it together and therefore had the capacity to give. Until the BMW. 3 months before the party that would change everything, I made a decision that I thought was entirely mine to make. I bought myself a car. Not just any car, a BMW i7, fully loaded, electric blue, the most beautiful and expensive thing I'd ever owned. I'd wanted a luxury car for years. I'd been driving a practical Honda Accord for nearly a decade, saving diligently, investing wisely, living below my means even as my income grew. I'd paid off my mortgage early. I had a robust retirement account. I had no debt. So when I walked into that BMW dealership at 41 years old and saw the i7, I thought, I've earned this. I work hard. I deserve something beautiful. I bought it with cash. The whole thing. $97,000 that came from my savings, my bonuses, my years of sacrifice and discipline. The first time I drove it, I cried. Not because of the car itself, though it was magnificent, but because I'd finally given myself permission to have something just for me. Something I didn't have to justify or share or apologize for. I posted a photo on social media because I was proud. A simple picture with the caption, "Treated myself to a new ride. Hard work pays off." The comments from friends and colleagues were congratulatory, but the text messages from my family told a different story. "Jason, must be nice to blow $100,000 on a car while some of us are struggling." "Emily, wow, I guess we know where your priorities are." "Mom, I hope you're not planning to drive that around your father and me. You know how it would make us feel." I was stunned. I'd expected them to be happy for me, or at least neutral. Instead, they were resentful, accusatory, as if my success was somehow their failure. I tried to explain. "I saved for this for years. I've worked incredibly hard." Jason cut me off when I called him. "You've always thought you were better than us. This just proves it. You'd rather spend money on a stupid car than help your own brother." "Help you with what, Jason? You didn't ask me for anything." "I shouldn't have to ask. You know I'm struggling. You know I need a better car to get to job interviews. But instead of helping me, you buy yourself a goddamn luxury vehicle. Real nice, Sophia, real family-oriented of you." And there it was. The entitlement that had been building for years finally stated plainly. My success, my money, my achievements, they weren't mine. They were family resources that I was selfishly hoarding. Over the next few weeks, the pressure intensified. Jason started calling me regularly, sometimes drunk, sometimes angry, sometimes playing the victim. He'd tell me how hard his life was, how he just needed one break, how a better car would change everything for him. "You have that BMW just sitting there," he'd say. "You could give me your old Honda and sell the BMW. Or better yet, let me have the BMW and you drive the Honda. You don't need to show off. I actually need reliable transportation." "Jason, you've wrecked 3 cars in 5 years. You've had your license suspended twice. I'm not giving you a $97,000 vehicle." "So you value a car over your own brother. Good to know where I stand." My parents weren't much better. Mom called in tears one night, saying that Jason was depressed, that he felt like the family failure, that seeing me with such an expensive car while he struggled was devastating to his self-esteem. "Maybe you could reconsider," she suggested gently. "You know Jason's been having a hard time. If you gave him the BMW and got something more modest, it would mean so much to him. It would show that family comes first." "Mom, I've been helping Jason financially for 10 years. I've given him over $70,000 that he's never paid back. I've covered his rent, his car payments, his credit card debt. I bought him a laptop, a new phone, professional clothes for interviews. I've done everything except give him my own car, and now that's what you think I should do." "You make it sound like he's taking advantage of you." "Isn't he?" The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Then, "I'm disappointed in you, Sophia. I raised you to care about people more than things." I hung up feeling guilty, confused, and angry, but I didn't give Jason the car. For the first time in my adult life, I held firm on a boundary. And that's what led to the party. My company's year-end party was always a major event. This year, it was being held at an upscale hotel downtown, cocktails, dinner, dancing, awards ceremony. I'd been looking forward to it for weeks. I'd achieved record sales numbers for my region, and I knew I was getting an award. I invited my family. I'd always invited them to company events, wanting to share my professional success with them, wanting them to see what I'd built. Usually, they made excuses and didn't come. But this year, Jason said he'd be there. I should have known something was off. He'd been cold to me since our last phone argument about the car. But I thought maybe he was trying to extend an olive branch, that he wanted to support me for once. I was wrong. I arrived at the party in a black cocktail dress, feeling confident and excited. My colleagues greeted me warmly. My boss congratulated me on my numbers. Everything was perfect. Until Jason arrived. He was already drunk when he walked in at 7:30 p.m. I could tell by the way he was moving, by the aggressive set of his jaw, by the look in his eyes that told me this wasn't going to end well. He made a beeline for me, weaving through the crowd of my colleagues in their formal attire, completely out of place in his jeans and untucked button-down shirt. "There she is," he announced loudly enough that people turned to look. "My big-shot sister, too good to help family, too important to care about anyone but herself." I felt my face flush. My colleagues were staring. My boss had paused mid-conversation to watch this scene unfold. "Jason, you're drunk. Let's go outside and talk." "I don't want to talk outside. I want everyone here to know what kind of person you really are. You act all successful and generous, but you won't even give your own brother your old car." "Jason, please." "She has a $100,000 BMW," he announced to the room, his voice slurring slightly. "Brand new, and she drives it around while her own brother can't afford to fix his transmission. That's the kind of person she is." I was mortified. My colleagues were uncomfortable, unsure whether to intervene or look away. My boss started moving toward us, probably to diffuse the situation. "I've given you $70,000 over the past 10 years, I said quietly, trying to keep this from escalating further. "I've paid your rent, your bills, your debts. I've helped you constantly. I don't owe you my car." "You owe me," his voice rose. "You owe me. I'm your brother, you're supposed to help me. But no, you're too selfish. You care more about your stupid car than your own family." That's when he grabbed a glass of red wine from a passing server's tray. I saw it happening, but couldn't quite believe it was actually happening. In slow motion, I watched him throw the entire glass of wine directly in my face. The cold liquid hit me with a shock. Red wine splashed across my face, my hair, my expensive black dress. The glass fell to the floor and shattered. The entire room went silent. I stood there, dripping, humiliated, unable to process what had just occurred. My brother had just assaulted me in front of 50 colleagues at my own company party. Jason was breathing hard, his face red with rage. "That's what you deserve," he spat. "That's what you get for being a selfish bitch who cares more about things than people." Before I could respond, 2 security guards appeared, the hotel's security, called by someone who'd witnessed the escalation. My boss was suddenly at my side, handing me napkins, asking if I was okay. "Sir, you need to leave," one of the security guards said firmly to Jason. "I'm not going anywhere. This is my sister's event, and I was invited." "You just assaulted someone. You're leaving now, or we're calling the police." "Fine, call them. Tell them how my own sister values money over family. Tell them." But the security guards were already escorting him out, each holding one of his arms as he continued to shout about my selfishness, my betrayal, my terrible values. My boss turned to me. "Sophia, I'm so sorry. Are you all right? Do you need to go home?" I was shaking. My dress was ruined. My hair was sticky with wine. My makeup was running. But more than the physical mess, I was emotionally devastated. This was supposed to be my night, my achievement, my moment, and my own brother had turned it into a spectacle of family dysfunction. "I need to clean up," I managed to say. My colleague Jennifer, who'd become a good friend over the years, immediately took my arm. "Come on, let's get you to the restroom." As she led me away, I could hear the murmurs starting behind me. My colleagues processing what they'd just witnessed. My professional reputation potentially damaged by my brother's public meltdown. In the bathroom, Jennifer helped me clean the wine off my face and out of my hair. The dress was a lost cause. I looked at myself in the mirror. Mascara streaked down my cheeks, wine stains on my shoulders and chest, my carefully styled hair matted and sticky, and something inside me broke. Not broke as in shattered, broke as in broke free. I was done being treated like an ATM, done being blamed for having success my family resented, done apologizing for working hard and reaping the rewards, done enabling Jason's entitlement and my parents' enabling of Jason's entitlement. I was done. I need to go back out there, I told Jennifer. I need to finish this evening. Sophia, no one would blame you if you left. I know, but I'm not leaving. I'm not letting him take this from me too. I cleaned myself up as best I could, borrowed Jennifer's blazer to cover the worst of the wine stains, and walked back into that party with my head held high. And that's when the real chaos began. I'd been back at the party for maybe 15 minutes, forcing myself to engage in conversation and pretend everything was fine, when my phone started buzzing incessantly. Text messages, one after another from my mother. Sophia, Jason just called us. What did you do to him? He says you had him thrown out and embarrassed. How could you? Your father and I are very disappointed in you. I stared at these messages in disbelief. Jason had assaulted me, humiliated me in front of my colleagues, and somehow I was the villain. I was about to respond when my boss approached me again. Sophia, there's someone here who needs to speak with you. It's important. My stomach dropped. Had Jason come back? Was there more drama coming? But it wasn't Jason. It was a police officer. Ms. Sophia Bennett, he asked formally. Yes. I'm Officer Rodriguez. I need to ask you some questions about an incident that occurred here approximately 20 minutes ago. My mind raced. Did Jason file a complaint against me? I didn't touch him, I just... No, ma'am. We're investigating your brother for assault. We have multiple witnesses who saw him throw a beverage in your face and verbally threaten you. The hotel management wants to press charges for disturbing the peace and property damage from the broken glass. We need to know if you want to file assault charges as well. I felt like the world was tilting. I don't know, he's my brother. Officer Rodriguez's expression softened slightly. I understand this is complicated because he's family, but assault is assault, regardless of the relationship. We've detained him in the lobby. If you choose to press charges, we'll arrest him tonight. If not, we'll still cite him for the hotel's complaints, but the assault charge won't move forward without your cooperation. Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was my father. Dad, I can't talk right now. Sophia, what is happening? His voice was frantic. Jason just called us from the hotel lobby. He says there are police there because of you. He says you're trying to have him arrested. Please tell me that's not true. Please tell me you're not doing this to your own brother. Something in me snapped. Maybe it was the wine still drying in my hair. Maybe it was standing there in a ruined dress while a police officer waited for my decision. Maybe it was the sheer audacity of my father calling to defend Jason without even asking what Jason had done. Dad, Jason threw wine in my face in front of 50 of my colleagues. He called me a selfish bitch. He humiliated me at my own company event. And your first call is to ask me what I'm doing to him. Well, I'm sure you did something to provoke him. You know how sensitive he is about money. You shouldn't have rubbed that car in his face. Rubbed it in his face? Dad, I bought a car with my own money. I didn't rub anything in anyone's face. Jason has been harassing me for months, demanding I give him a nearly $100,000 vehicle, and you think I provoked him by... What? By existing. By having the audacity to spend my own money on myself. Don't take that tone with me. I'm your father, and I'm telling you right now, if you press charges against your brother, you're no longer part of this family. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. Choose Jason or choose yourself. Enable the dysfunction or face exile. For the first time in my life, the choice was easy. Then I guess I'm no longer part of this family, I said quietly. Then I turned to Officer Rodriguez. Yes, I want to press charges. My father was still sputtering on the phone as I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt a strange sense of clarity. Peace, almost. Officer Rodriguez nodded. We'll need you to come down to the station tomorrow to give a formal statement. For tonight, we're arresting your brother for assault. Do you have someone who can drive you home? You seem shaken. Jennifer appeared at my elbow again. I'll take her home. As Officer Rodriguez walked away to process the arrest, Jennifer pulled me aside. Sophia, are you sure about this? Pressing charges against your own brother. Have you ever had family treat you like you owe them everything just because you've been successful? I asked her. No, but I've seen it happen to others. For 15 years, I've given my family everything they've asked for. Money, time, emotional support, professional connections, opportunities. I've sacrificed my own financial goals to fund Jason's failures. I've put up with resentment and entitlement and accusations of being selfish just because I worked hard and succeeded. And tonight, after all of that, he threw wine in my face and called me a bitch in front of everyone I work with. If I let this go, if I accept my father's ultimatum and back down, I'm telling them that they can treat me however they want and I'll just take it. I'm done taking it. What I didn't know yet, what I was about to discover, was that there was so much more to this story than I realized. The next morning, I woke up to my phone exploding with messages. My mother, my sister Emily, aunts, uncles, cousins, all weighing in on the family crisis I'd created by having Jason arrested. But there was one message that stood out. It was from my younger sister Emily. Sophia, we need to talk. There's something you don't know about Jason. Can I come over? Emily and I had never been particularly close. She was 5 years younger, and we'd led very different lives. But she'd never taken sides in family drama before, so her message caught my attention. When she arrived at my apartment an hour later, she looked nervous. I probably should have told you this years ago, she said, sitting on my couch and twisting her hands together. But I was afraid it would tear the family apart. Emily, what are you talking about? She took a deep breath. Jason doesn't have a job. He hasn't had a job in almost 2 years. What? But he told Mom and Dad he's been working at that warehouse. He lied, and they either don't know or don't want to know, but it's worse than that. The money you've been giving him, the rent money, the car payment money, all of it, he hasn't been using it for rent or bills. My blood ran cold. What has he been using it for? Gambling, online poker, sports betting, trips to casinos. Sophia, he has a serious addiction. He's been using your money to fund it. And whenever he loses big, he comes up with a new emergency to get more money from you. I felt sick. How long have you known? About a year. His ex-girlfriend told me. She left him because of the gambling. She said he's lost over $100,000 in the past 3 years. $100,000. The same amount as my car. Money I'd worked for, saved for, earned through countless hours and sacrifices, and my brother had been lying to me, manipulating me, using my guilt and my sense of family obligation to fund a gambling addiction. Why didn't you tell me? Emily's eyes filled with tears. Because Mom and Dad know. They've known for months, and they've been covering for him, making excuses, enabling him, and using your money to do it. When you give Jason money, he gives some of it to them to pay them back for supporting him. They're benefiting from your generosity while lying to you about where it's going. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. My parents knew. They knew Jason was lying to me, manipulating me, using me, and they'd not only allowed it, they'd participated in it. There's more, Emily said quietly. The reason Jason went off on you about the car, he told Mom and Dad that if he had a nice car like yours, he could Uber or do deliveries to make money. They believed him, or pretended to, and they've been pressuring him to ask you for it. Mom even suggested he could sell it and use the money to get back on his feet, which really means gamble more. When you wouldn't give it to him, he felt like you were standing between him and his next big score. I couldn't breathe. My entire understanding of my family was crumbling. Why are you telling me this now? Because you pressed charges, and I'm proud of you. For 15 years, I've watched them use you. I've watched you give and get nothing but resentment in return. I've wanted to say something, but I was afraid. Afraid of being cut off, of being the troublemaker, of tearing the family apart. But you were brave enough to draw a line, and I want you to know the truth about what you're actually walking away from. She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots of text messages. Conversations between Jason and our mother where they discussed how to approach me for money. Messages where Jason joked about his ATM sister. Exchanges where our father suggested Jason play up his struggles to make me feel more guilty. It was all there. The manipulation, the lies, the calculated exploitation of my love for them. I felt like I was going to throw up. "I'm so sorry, Sophia," Emily said, crying now. "I should have told you sooner, I should have protected you, but I was weak." I pulled her into a hug. "It's not your fault, none of this is your fault." We sat there for a long time, two sisters processing the dysfunction we'd both been trapped in, just in different ways. Later that day, I went to the police station to give my formal statement. As I was leaving, Officer Rodriguez stopped me. "Ms. Bennett, I wanted you to know something. When we arrested your brother last night, we found something concerning. He had drug paraphernalia in his car, not enough to charge him with possession, but enough to suggest there might be more to his story than just family drama. Drugs, of course. The gambling wasn't the only addiction. Emily had told me part of the truth, but there was even more beneath the surface. We also pulled his record," Officer Rodriguez continued. "He has 3 prior arrests for DUI, 2 for disorderly conduct, and 1 for writing bad checks. Did you know about any of this?" I shook my head, feeling numb. "Your family never told you." "My family has been telling me a lot of things that aren't true." Officer Rodriguez's expression was sympathetic. "I see this pattern a lot in families. One person becomes the designated rescuer, and everyone else becomes dependent on that dynamic. The rescuer feels guilty for having boundaries. The dependents feel entitled to demand more. It becomes a toxic cycle that's hard to break." "How do you break it?" "You already did, by pressing charges, by saying enough is enough, by choosing yourself." In the week following Jason's arrest, my family waged a full-scale campaign to make me the villain. My mother sent me long, rambling emails about how I was tearing the family apart. How could I do this to my own brother? How I was prioritizing money and pride over family bonds. My father left voicemails calling me selfish, ungrateful, cold-hearted. Extended family members who barely knew me suddenly had opinions. I was being too harsh. Jason needed support, not legal consequences. Family should forgive and help each other, not involve the police. The narrative they were spinning was clear. I was the successful, cold-hearted daughter who'd abandoned her struggling brother in his time of need. Jason was the victim of both his circumstances and his cruel sister. What they didn't know was that I'd hired a lawyer, not just for the assault case, but to protect myself from what I suspected was coming. Sure enough, 3 days after Jason's arrest, I received a letter from an attorney representing my parents. They were suing me for unjust enrichment and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The claim was absurd. They argued that I'd manipulated Jason into depending on my financial support and then cruelly withdrawn it, causing him emotional harm that led to his breakdown at the party. My lawyer, a sharp woman named Margaret Chen, actually laughed when she read it. "This is one of the most frivolous lawsuits I've ever seen. They have no case, but it tells you everything you need to know about how far they're willing to go." She was right. The lawsuit wasn't about winning, it was about punishing me for not falling in line. But I had documentation. Years of text messages showing Jason's requests for money, bank statements showing the transfers, emails from my parents asking me to help Jason. Everything Emily had given me about the gambling and the lies. When Margaret sent a response to their lawyer, laying out the evidence I had, including proof that Jason had lied about how he was using the money I gave him, the lawsuit was quietly dropped. But the family estrangement intensified. My mother sent me one final email. "You've made your choice. You've chosen money and bitterness over family. Your father and I will not watch you destroy your brother's life because of your own ego. You are no longer welcome in our home. You are no longer part of this family. I hope your BMW and your successful career keep you warm at night because you'll have nothing and no one else." I read that email 3 times, and then I blocked her number. Emily called me that night. "Mom and Dad are telling everyone you attacked Jason at the party and made up a story to cover yourself. They're saying you've always been jealous of Jason and used your money to control him." "Do you believe that?" "Of course not. I was there. I know the truth. But Sophia, they've convinced themselves of their own narrative. They genuinely believe Jason is the victim here. I don't think they're capable of seeing it any other way. What are you going to do? I'm keeping my distance from them. I can't be part of their delusion anymore, and I can't watch them destroy you and pretend it's justified. It turned out that Emily and I weren't the only ones seeing clearly. My Aunt Patricia, my father's sister, reached out to me a week later. I've been watching this family dynamic for years, she told me over coffee. Your mother has always coddled Jason. Your father has always enabled it. And you've always been expected to pick up the pieces. I'm glad you finally said no. Everyone thinks I'm a monster. Everyone in your immediate family thinks that. But those of us watching from the outside have been wondering when you'd finally wake up. You're not a monster, Sophia. You're the only one in that family who's actually healthy. It's been 6 months since the party. 6 months since Jason threw wine in my face. 6 months since I pressed charges. 6 months since I lost my family and found myself. Jason pleaded guilty to assault and received a suspended sentence with mandatory community service and anger management classes. I have a restraining order against him. We will never speak again. My parents haven't contacted me since that final email. According to Emily, who maintains minimal contact with them, they've painted themselves as the victims of an ungrateful daughter. They tell people I've abandoned them in their old age, that I've turned my back on family, that success has made me cruel. Let them tell that story. I know the truth. The truth is that I spent 41 years trying to buy love and approval from people who were never going to give it to me freely. I spent 15 years funding a lifestyle and addiction I didn't even know existed. I spent countless hours feeling guilty for success I'd earned through hard work and sacrifice. That 1 hour, between Jason throwing wine in my face and Jason being arrested, was the most transformative hour of my life. Not because of what happened to him, but because of what happened in me. In that hour, I chose myself for the first time. I stopped accepting the unacceptable. I stopped enabling the dysfunction. I stopped believing that family loyalty meant tolerating abuse and exploitation. I learned that walking away from toxic people, even when they're family, isn't cruelty. It's self-preservation. I learned that being the successful, responsible, generous one doesn't obligate you to fund everyone else's poor choices. I learned that the people who truly love you don't make you feel guilty for your success or demand you sacrifice your well-being for their comfort. I learned that sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you're meant to keep. My life now looks different than I thought it would at 41. I'm estranged from most of my blood relatives. I don't go home for holidays. I don't get Mother's Day cards or birthday calls from my parents. But I also don't get late-night calls from Jason demanding money. I don't get guilt trips about my success. I don't get treated like an ATM with emotions. I have Emily, who finally found her own courage to set boundaries. I have Aunt Patricia and a few cousins who have made clear they support me. I have my colleagues, who have become friends, who witnessed that humiliating moment and responded with compassion and support instead of judgment. I have my BMW i7, which I still love, and which now represents not just a car but a boundary, a choice, a line in the sand that I drew and maintained even when it cost me everything I thought I couldn't live without. And I have peace, real peace. The kind that comes from knowing you're living with integrity, from knowing you're not being used, from knowing that the people in your life value you for who you are, not for what you can give them. Was it worth it, losing my family to gain my self-respect? Every single day, the answer is yes. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be estranged from my parents and brother, I would have said that was my worst nightmare. I would have done anything to prevent it. But here's what I know now. Sometimes our worst nightmare is actually our wake-up call. Sometimes losing everything we thought we needed reveals what we actually need. I needed to stop being the family ATM. I needed to stop accepting crumbs of approval in exchange for thousands of dollars and endless emotional labor. I needed to stop believing that being the successful one meant I owed everyone else the fruits of my success. That moment when Jason threw wine in my face wasn't the worst moment of my life. It was the moment that saved my life from being consumed by people who saw me as a resource rather than a person. 1 hour changed everything. Not because of what happened to Jason, but because of what I chose for myself in that hour. I chose self-respect over family approval. I chose boundaries over being used. I chose truth over comfortable lies. And I would make that choice again, every single time. The question I want you to ask yourself is this: are you the ATM in your family? Are you the designated rescuer, the responsible one, the person everyone turns to but no one appreciates? Are you giving and giving while being resented for not giving more? If you are, I want you to know you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to have boundaries. You're allowed to protect yourself, even from family. You're allowed to walk away from people who see your generosity as obligation rather than gift. It might cost you everything. It cost me my parents, my brother, my idea of what family should be, but it gave me myself. And I was worth the cost. What would happen if you chose yourself? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments.